Kakalosh Boker or Masechet Bava Metzia Daf Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph 171. Says the Gemara, we are by the two dots. So we are 2, 4, 5 lines down where it says Tevuah lo yizra'enna kitnit. If you're going to take a field in order to plant grains, right? Don't start planting kitnit. Again, there's different. There was a machloket there in the Mishnah. Matnitin, right? Matnin le Rav Yehuda le Ravin. Rav Yehuda taught this Mishnah to Ravin. Tevuah yizra'enna kitnit. That if it was tevuah, you could plant different types of beans. So Elmaleh, he says, I learned it the other way around. Now you're not supposed to. Elmaleh, he told him, a question. Halan behalehu. This is the time of Bnei Bavel. Bnei Bavel, they live in a valley. I remember Babylonia is a valley. So therefore, since it's a valley, so therefore he says, we're not going to suspect that it's going to weaken land because the water comes back down. So there's no problem. But in Eretz Yisrael, which there are mountains, it's going to be a problem because obviously if it's going to come and weaken land, right, you're going to have a problem afterwards. So therefore you're not allowed to do it in Eretz Yisrael. Elmaleh Rav Yehuda, the Ravin bar Nachman, says Rav Yehuda to Ravin bar Nachman, Ravina Achi, Ravi my brother. Yeah, obviously he wasn't the brother, right? But he says here, just Stam, it was like the name of the father of Ravin. So he called him Keilu Achi. Hane Tachle Vekitna. We're talking about, I think it's called cress in English, no? Cress, right? Which is basically something which is compared to a mustard, okay? And Bahem Mishum Gezel. So there's no Gezel. What does that mean? Anybody that comes and takes, there's no Gezel, right? He says, Omdot al Gevulim, right? And if they're going to be on the Gvul, Yesh by Mishum Gezel. There is a problem of Gezel. Right? He says the first case was because anybody that comes and takes them, it ruins the flax more than the value of itself. So when you come and you take it out, you're actually appreciating the field. So that's why there's no gezen. But if it's going to be on the border, so then there is an isur of gezen, because then it's not making anything else loose. Now, if it's going to be connected to the zera, which means, right, that it already it's already like a wood. It's already like a tree. So afilu dvekitna nami yesh by migushu gezel. Then it's also going to be gezel. My time was reasoning the afsid. He says because that which had already made it lost, it already lost. Meaning it's already done deal. So therefore, since it already made lose all the flax or whatever it is, so now there's no problem whatsoever. Elmaleh Rav Yehuda, the Ravin bar Nachman, says of Yehuda to Ravin bar Nachman, Ravinachi. Hane dili dilach, right? I've got the fruits on the trees, they're shayach to you. The dilach dili, and whatever you have in your trees, they belong to me. Basically, what he was trying to say is that they had trees and they were neighbors. So therefore he says, right, some of them are on the border, and therefore the roots are in your property. And some of your trees are on my border, and then the roots are my. So therefore, my fruits are really belong to you, and your fruits really belong to me. That's what he's trying to say. Yeah, exactly. That's what he's saying. V'nahug b'nei Metzra, right? And therefore, the minhag of b'nei Metzra, which are fields run beside each other, is ilana noteh. When you have an ilan which is going to be one place, another place, v'noteh lekan lekan. So he says like this. He says ilana noteh, that the shorashim are going to be in one of the fields, the perot are shayach to the ones of that field. And the other one, which is notelekan, belongs to the other one. So therefore, sometimes you have trees which are going to be on the border, and it's going to belong to two different people. Meaning, even though it's in my property, but since the roots are in yours, so it belongs to you, and vice versa. Okay? The Itmar was stated, Ilana omed al metzar, when you have a tree which is on the boundary, Amar Rav says, lekan lekan. If the shorashim are going to one field, so it belongs to that field, because that's where it's taking its nourishment. Lekan lekan. Shmuel says, no, cholkim, you divide it. But at the end of the day, why are you going to divide it? Because even though it might get the nourishment from you, because that's where the roots are, but where's the tree? The tree's in my property, so it's half-half. Divide the fruits. Okay. So now he comes and he says like this. He says as follows. He says, Meitve, we're going to ask one question. So this is a question against Rav. This is a proof to Shmuel. So Tirgim Shmuel liba de Rav. So Shmuel just said, this is according to Rav. Elmaleh kol metzar kulo. Right? That basically you filled up the entire property in between, and therefore, since for sure they've got on both sides, so Rav agrees that it's going to be divided between the two. So basically, you have the shorashim going in both directions. So since you have the shorashim going in both directions, you have that in the entire length of the field. So therefore, you divide it. So says the Gemara, so what's the chidush then? So he says, Lotzicha, the chidush is the tale tune lechad gisa. The majority of the perot, they're on one side. So still, you're going to be mechulkim. You're going to divide it, even though the majority of the fruits are turning to one side. So says the Gemara, still vakatim. What's the chidush? So he says, I would have thought to say the Elmaleh that he could tell him plog hachi, right? Divide it the other way around. Kamashmalan the Elmaleh that he could tell him, why are you dividing it this way? Divide it the other way, right? Why are you dividing it, for example, Mizrach l'Marav, do it from Tzafon Darom, right? Like north south instead of east west. So therefore, how are you? Who's going to decide how to divide it? One more time. I've got the tree down the line. So now you're going to divide it. How do you divide it? North south or east west? How do you divide it? So that's the question. That's what we're saying here. Okay. So Amaleh Rav Yehuda, the Rabbi Rav Nachman, Ravi Nachi. Yeah. So again, Ravi Nachi, Ravi my brother, Lotiz ben Arad dismucha lemata. Don't buy a field which is close to the city. Why? Because since basically people always come and they look at it, so therefore they're going to destroy it. This is going to be the daf about the Ain Hara. The Amar Rabbi Yavu Amar Ravuna Amar Rav. Says Rabbi Yavu the name of Ravuna Amar Rav. Asulo le'adam she'amod al sedeh chavero b'shah she'omed mikumato. You're not allowed to look at the field of your friend when it's at its height. Why? Because of Ain Hara. So says the Gemara, any is it so? Ashkachinu Rabbi Abba l'tamidei de Rav. He says, it once happened to Rabbi Abba, the Talmid of Rav came and he said, Maya Marav Hani Krai, what does Rav say on these psukim? Baruch atah ba'ir, u'baruch atah b'sadeh. Baruch atah b'vuecha, u'baruch atah b'tzetecha. Ve'amnu lehem, they said, Hach yam Rav, this is what Rav says. Baruch atah ba'ir, she'betcha samuch le'bet knesset. That's the blessing. The blessing is your house should be next to a synagogue. Yeah, not out there. Not next to a bet knesset. Yeah. So he says, right? Baruch atah b'sadeh. Yeah, that your field should be close to the city. So over here it says mefurash should be close to the city. Baruch atah b'vuecha means that your wife shouldn't be a safek nida when you come back from the path. Baruch atah b'tzetecha that your children should be like you. So says Rabbi Abba to Tamidei Rav. Rabbi Yochanan, he didn't say Ela, but rather he said like this. You should have a washroom by your house. Why? So you don't have to go very, very far away to go to the washroom. Because when a person needs to do their necessities, right? So therefore, you should have it right beside his house. However, Bet Knesset, no. Bet Knesset shouldn't be beside your house. This is why. You have schar psiot. Why do you think he went all the way out there? So when he comes here to walking to the Bet Knesset every Shabbat, he's going to have tons of schar psiot. What do you think? Schar psiot. Baruch atah b'sadeh. What does mean Baruch atah b'sadeh? Shiu nechasecha meshulashim. You should always split it into three. Shlish b'tva, shlish b'tva. You should have a third in grain, a third in olives, and a third in grapes. Baruch atah b'sadeh shetei yitziatecha min ha'olam ki v'tichal olam. That just like you come out of this world, it should be when you come into this world. Ma b'yatichal olam. Just like when you come into this world, it's without sin. So to yitziatecha min ha'olam lo chet. So to when you come out of this world, it should be without sin. By the way, here the Rashash says that there's a raya, or not a raya, stirak tzat lebaalei agilgulim. Meaning there's a contradiction a little bit for the people that believe in Gilgul. Because he says, just like you come into this world without sin, you should leave this world without sin. So what does that mean? If you come in this world without sin, it means that you're not a Gilgul. Because if you're a Gilgul, you came here to fix something. You understand? So he wants... Huh? Again, this is a rashash. It's you understand? It says the Gemara of Kuf Zayin Bet. Lakashi asana a question. Had the me'ader le'shura veritka, the had the lo me'ader le'shura veritka. What does that mean? Is there going to be a wall around the field or not? If you have a wall around the field, so people can't shuf einik, they can't put their eyes on your field, so therefore it's actually going to be good to have it right at the entrance of the city. But when did Rav Yehuda tell Rav that no, you shouldn't have it right beside the city, right? Again, according to the words of Rav, that's when there's nothing, meaning they just come and they just see your entire property. Okay? Meaning if you have protection, so then have it right there, no problem. Why? There's a wall. Nobody can see what's going on. But if not, and they're coming and they're looking, wow, look at this. You should be careful. So says the Gemara, Ve'esir Hashem imecha kol choli. Hashem will remove from you any types of sicknesses. Amarav zu ayin. This is the ayin hara. Rav letamen. Rav goes according to his reasoning. Rav salik levekiver, because Rav went to the Bet HaKvarot, to the cemetery. Avad ma'de avad. He did a maaseh, which means he was lachash al HaKvarot. Ve'amar, and he said, Tishin ve'tisha be'ayin ra'ah. Ve'echad b'derech eretz. Out of 100 people, 99 died because of ayin hara. One because of derech eretz. Which one? No. Derech eretz just means like, I mean, Hag HaOlam, regular way. Meaning that a lot of people died because of Kitzur Yamim, just because of ayin hara. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, Ze ruach. This is the ruach. What does that mean? The wind. Shmuel Tameh, Shmuel kol baruach. Everything depends. All the machalot and deaths and everything come because of the wind. Shmuel, according to Shmuel, but there are people that they die because of the government. The government come and they kill them. They execute them. So he says, Hanachnami, these people also, he loves Zika. If it wouldn't be for the ruach, right? You could actually save them if it wasn't for the wind. Chanina says, Zot Sinah. This is going to be a sickness because of ruach kor. The Amar of Yechanina says, everything comes from Hashemayim except for tzinim pachim, which means, right, cold or hot, meaning fever and a cold. Right? Shneimar says in a pasuk, tzinim pachim b'derech yikesh v'nasho yirchak mehem. So therefore, basically, a person should be very, very careful not to come, because this is a regular cold. This is something that a person could actually watch himself from, right? He says, and not because of, just stam. Meaning that this doesn't come from Hashem. This comes from us if we're not going to be careful with ourselves. Okay? No. We stopped later. I know we finish. Now Rav Chanina was just saying that everything comes from Shamayim except for a cold. There's a cold, you can watch over yourself, right? If it's a regular sickness, that comes from Hashem. But if it's just a regular cold, that comes from regular, that's why? Because we are the ones that are supposed to watch over that. So therefore, that comes from ourselves. We are the cause of that. If everything else comes from Hashem. Yes, also. Yosef Bar Chanina says, what does it mean kol choli? So again, we are trying to explain what is all choli. First explanation, Vasir Hashem Micha kol choli, ayin hara. Second explanation, the ruach. Third explanation, tzina. Fourth explanation, what we're going to say now, tsoa, excrement. He says, Damar Mar, Rabbi Mor says, if a person has too much of the refuse, of the mucus, whether it's going to be of earwax or of mucus in the nose, so he says, it's not going to be good. Only a little bit is good. Elazar says, Kol choli zomara. This is the mara, which basically when you're going to have in the kisa mara a lot of bitterness, so therefore it goes inside the other sinews and the mara, usually the bladder, no? Yeah. The bladder. We also learned it in Raita. Machala is the mara. So why is it called machala? She machala kol gufo shel adam, because it makes the entire body of the person sick. Okay, that's what it says. Vasiroti machala doesn't say vasiroti choli. Machala, because it's machala of the entire body. Davar acher machala ש-83 חולאים תלויים במראה. There are 83 sicknesses depending upon the bladder, וכולן, and all of them, פת שחרית במלח, וקיטון של מים. The person has פת שחרית במלח, and a קיטון של מים, it's going to מבטל את זה. It's going to annul it. So this is now another famous Gemara to do with פת שחרית. There are 13 things which were said with regarding to Pachachrin. Matzel mina chama. It's going to say from heat, right? Mina tzina from cold. Mina mazikin from the mazikin, which is basically mina zikin from the ruchot, from the different winds which damage. Mina mazikin from mazikin. Machkimo peti. It's going to be, since he's not mitztaer because of the hunger, so therefore he's going to have his mind set, so therefore it's going to make him smart. Zoche badin, he's going to be zoche din, right? Which means, because he's going, meaning a person comes and he's going to eat well. Sorry, thank you. So what happens? He's going to be able to zoche in the judgment, yeah, in court cases. Lilmod Torah, it's going to help him to learn Torah. Lelamed, to teach. Varav nishmaim, his words are going to be listened to. Talmudom itkayim yado, he's not going to forget his learning. En besaro ma'aleh hevel, he's not going to have a lot of sweat and bad smell. Yesh tizkak liishto, he's going to have the strength to be with his wife, right? And he says, and then he won't have tava to go with another woman. Meaning, since he comes and he eats in the morning, he'll be able to have his relations with his wife before going to work, basically. So for when he goes and sees a woman in the street, he won't go after. It's going to kill different types of worms in the stomach. And some people say also, it's going to take out kin'ah, and it's going to, like jealousy, and it's going to bring in love. Because basically, once he ate and everything, it's much easier for him to be tolerating, right, of other people. You know, so, I mean, he's not going to be so, so on edge or this or 100%. Yeah, but this is specifically for morning, pachachrit. You're right. You're talking about food because food in general brings together. But here we're talking about pachachrit. Okay. Amale Rabba le Rabba Marmari, says Rabba to Rabba Marmari. How do we know this thing? The people say shitin rehite rahut velomatu legavra min safra karach. Right? He says 60 times you're running, right? But the person that ate pachachrit, you can get him. So he says, wake up in the morning and eat in the summer because of the heat, in the winter because of the cold. Samaleh, he says, it says in Pasuk, lo yid'avu v'lo yitzma'u v'lo yakem sharav hashemesh, lo yakem sharav hashemesh kem de lo yiravu v'lo yitzma'u. What does that mean? A person is not going to be hungry, he's not going to be thirsty, it's not going to hit him, the heat, right? So he says, what does that mean? He says, because since he already ate pachachrit and the water, so therefore he's not going to be damaged, right, from all these different things. Another pasuk. By the way, you should know, I remember they used to always say this, that all the athletes and everything, they always used to say that a healthy breakfast is what is the secret to, they always used to do that for all the Cheerios and all these things, right? A healthy breakfast is what is the athlete's secret to win or something like that, Yeah. Before the run. Okay, there you go. Elmaleh. So he comes and he says, you told me from over there, but I'm going to give you from another pasuk. You're going to serve Hashem your God, and He's going to bless your bread and your water. He comes and immediately afterwards, will take away all your machalot. So therefore, first you have to say Kriyat Shema Tefillah, because you can't have shachrit, you can't have food before shachrit. So you first do Kriyat Shema Tefillah. Afterwards, you're going to have Papa Melach and Kiton Shel Mayim, and then afterwards, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Zasiroti Machala Mikirbecha. Okay. Next, Amar le Rav Yehuda Ravada Mishocha. Says Rav Yehuda to Rav Ravada Mishocha. Lo tezalzel memishchata. Do not come and be mizalzel in the measurements of the land. He says, with any single small piece of land, you could come and you could put karkum, turmeric. No, they say in English? Saffron. That's what it is. Okay, because it's very, very good. So he says, so Amalei Rav Yehuda Rav Adam Shochar, Ba'amot Dangira, 4 amot, right? He says, Zalzel behu. Right, the Anhara, but they put it by the field, by the rivers, Lotim Shachenu Klal. Don't do it at all. Because he's saying that even if it's going to be a little bit less than 4 amot, it's going to be okay. If it's going to be right beside an amata mine, beside a water irrigation canal, but he said if it's going to be on the river, he says don't do it at all. Rav Yehuda, the time Rav Yehuda goes according to his reasoning. The Rav Yehuda says Arbamo dan Gigra, Nigra, they belong to them. But if it's going to be right beside the river, it belongs to everybody. Meaning basically it belongs to everybody since it's right beside the river. Machri Ravami came and he announced, Melo kitve dagde, right? These trees which are going to be on the riverbanks, on the two sides of the river, kutsu. You should cut them down, so that way it's not gonna stop the boats which are going by. He used to cut down 16 amot, right? Like mamash, like a reshut rabim. And they started hitting him. Right? But obviously he was doing it so that way the boats could pass by without any problems. He thought there was like a reshut rabim, and it's not true. There, reshut rabim actually knew that. Here, it's just because you should just, for the chevel or whatever it is that you're pulling it to the side. So just, right beside it, it's already enough. You don't need mamash 16 amot, right beside it. All you need is right beside the boats, right? They could pass by, but you don't need more than that. Rabbi Ravuna, he had a yard. He had this forest on the Sfatanar, on the riverbanks. Amrule, they told him, we're going to cut it down. He said, you guys cut it down first, and then I'm going to cut mine. So how are you going to do that? It's written, you have to first purify yourself and then purify other people. That's what the Shaki says. Meaning, first fix yourself, then you can fix other people. So he says, Hatam over there, Abba de Beparza Kufi Lahava. He was Shayach to Beparzek, the Moshe Parsi, so he wasn't Shayach to Israel. So therefore, the Moshe, they couldn't come and cut it down. So Amar, he said, he says, in Bet Moshe, we're going to cut it down, so then I'm also going to cut it down. If you look at it, if they're going to cut it down, why am I going to cut it down? He says, but if they could actually come and they could go by, mistagelu, they're going to go on one side, and if not, lo mistagelu, they're not going to go at all. And therefore, that's why you just said, no, I want to see that they're going to do it. And then obviously there's going to be the continuation of the story. Okay, we'll continue with Zat Hashem.